All right, fine. I'll be a gracious host. How you doing?
Little Mermaid is the scariest Disney movie by far, though.
Why the hell is Ace Blade in your Kickstarter?
Some comics. I'm getting controversial today. We're gonna get controversial today with.
My proudest moment is this interview and being able to talk to you two.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Taurus Comics, in collaboration with Fourth Wall Productions, respectfully brings to you the 116th episode of the Four Tales podcast. I am your host, Kyron Silva from Taurus Comics. Across that way is the heliotrope storyteller of Ace Blade, Darius Jack Quigley, aka Danny J. Quick, and together we're your two award-winning blurred comic creators here to help you find your next favorite comic. We are live on the Age of the Geekdom Network via Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. So if you're listening or watching us live, thank you for your support. But don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and review this podcast because all your positive reviews and interactions help us reach a bigger audience. Darius, what's going on, man?
What's happening, Kyron? I'm trying to get my TikTok live going, and it's acting up.
I'll be right off the bat honest. I don't have any notes for today's show.
We shouldn't need any though. We know this guest well enough to just be able to talk to him for an hour at least.
I know, but no, usually I come prepared. I create notes. I get my questions on a page, and I did that this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I just looked at my little notepad that I use. It did not save anything.
Oh man, that's tough.
That's an hour's worth of work out of my week gone.
I hate it when that happens. That is terrible.
Oh,
that is terrible. But
right. What's new with you?
Nothing much, man. I'm alive. I'm happy. I'm working. I'm starting to, get back into a rhythm creatively. I feel about 90% better with my herniated disc. So, I'm feeling good, man. What's good with you? What's good with you?
Nothing. Nothing's really changed for me. Everything's the same. Got some art projects coming along down the way. Got some personal projects with the family and some other stuff. I can't really talk about. I guess I don't know.
Do you want to announce? Do you want to make an announcement right now?
I don't know. That's up to you if you want to talk about it. I don't know.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if we should be telling people this yet, but we have an announcement to make. This is the Four Tales podcast, but this is a Fourth Wall Productions announcement. Okay, we have just agreed with Kyron for him to become the editor-in-chief of Fourth Wall Productions. Ladies and gentlemen, if we had Michael's applause button, I would be pressing that button right now. There it is. You bought one? You bought one? Wait. It came back quickly. It came that quick. Dang. Okay. So we are welcoming. We are so happy to have Kyron on. Me and Kyron have been working together for a long time. I've appreciated his insight when it comes to comics and his passion for creating comics and just his his creative intuition and his business acumen. And also Kyron has made a sizable donation to the Ace Blade Fund. No, he didn't. He didn't do that. He didn't do that. I'm gonna tell people what he did though.
Okay.
So welcome to the team, Kyron, and thank you for joining us.
I'm excited to be a part of this. I can't wait to get everything done and get Fourth Wall streamlined and producing great books. First thing I do want to announce, as editor-in-chief of Fourth Wall, we will be getting rid of Ace Blade and Lumberjack and Harlem.
All right.
We're going to be introducing new characters called Club Bat, Lumberjack Lynn, and Songs of the Black Flowers.
Okay, right.
Yes.
Okay. New characters. We're getting rid of the
new series. We're getting rid of everything that I feel like we should just cut the fat, get rid of everything.
I'd like to make another announcement. Kyron has been fired as the editor-in-chief Fourth Wall Productions. It was a swift hiring and firing, but we were happy to have him while he was around.
Thanks.
No, man, I'm so happy to have you. On the officially a part of the team, man. We've been working together and leaning on each other for a long time with these creative endeavors. So just happy to make it official, I guess you'll say.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Now we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna keep producing great books, and hopefully we can get them out in a regular schedule for you guys to enjoy them and get more things out to you. Because that's the biggest thing is getting more books out to you as much as possible before Danny goes into financial debt. That's all it is. And maybe
further into financial debt. Yes.
Further into financial debt. Yes. But we have a great guest that we can maybe pick his brain about things like this because he's been making moves for a few years.
Yes.
I got the chance to meet this man 3 months ago.
You got to meet him in person,
face to face. I was highly intimidated because he was so swole looking, and I was like, "Damn, he gonna kick my ass if I say anything wrong." So, but we got the legendary Brian Lambert from Wingless Comics on.
Brian,
so we starting with half lies, half truths. That's what we're doing now. I look intimidating. Come on, man. I'm a teddy bear, bro. What are you talking about? And I'm short, bro.
Yeah, hey, I'm like you're still taller than me.
Maybe short.
It wasn't by a lot. You're still taller than me.
Nah, man. One, I want to say congratulations. Two, I want to say, Danny, I'm pissed. Because how dare you not tell me, man? Like this is stuff that I should know and be able to celebrate early with y'all, man. Like that's a little scandalous. So
I know I've been doing better about keeping stuff closer to the chest. I'm
part of the team.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
So the second announcement as part of editor-in-chief is we want to say goodbye to Brian.
No.
There can only be two short dudes in the group. I'm sorry, man.
right.
I'm terrible.
Well, shit, bro. How was Danny there then?
No, I'm 6 foot.
You 6 foot minus 2.5 inches.
No, I'm legit 6 foot tall. Legit.
I'm gonna put you and Kev on stage back to back and see the truth. Because I want to destroy the universe if y'all are both the same person.
No, you should see my daughters. Both of my daughters are like 5'11" already, and they're just 16 and 18 now. So it's ridiculous.
Man, I hate that both of your daughters are taller than me.
Right. I prayed for two things my entire life, bro. I wanted to be a transformer, and that didn't work out. God wasn't trying to let me be a transformer. I don't understand why. And then two, I wanted to be 6'2". I didn't get neither one of them, bro. Like, how fair is that?
God knows to cap you off at a certain thing. You can have the muscles. You can be handsome. You can grow a full beard. You got a full beard, man. People can't
that's the thing.
Now, if he would have gave you the height too,
yeah, it would have been over.
Okay, I was about to say that's fair. That's fair. I definitely would have taken that way too far. I definitely would have. I'd have been a villain, more of a villain.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. So man, before y'all interview me, I gotta interview you guys. So does that mean Saul is gonna come over, or potentially like Shaman's Destiny is gonna come over to Fourth Wall? Since we have this partnership going?
No.
Okay.
Taurus Comics is all its own entity, and it's going to stay that way unless I get paid some checks.
I'm trying to get hired by Taurus. I'm trying to get hired by Taurus Comics too.
So
throw that thing away already. Throw it away.
I love this thing.
Terrible.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know people do like joint publishing deals. I have one with Lawrence King of Constant Hustle. So while Constant Hustle Comics is its own entity and Avery is its own entity, and The Last Line is its own entity, they are also part of the Wingless Comics universe, narratively and things like that. So I was just wondering if we were going to see some narrative kind of, not crossovers necessarily, but like, I mean, you have like the Club Bat, that, you know what I mean? Like we've seen some little Easter egg, so I wonder if they're gonna abound or not.
I didn't get paid for Club Bat either, but you're
not gonna get paid for it. That's my original creation. Nothing out there is like Club Bat.
Right.
No, we haven't talked about that yet, but we're always talking crossovers and leaning on each other for stuff like that. So we haven't talked about any of that stuff yet, but we do know that Kyron is going to help us get streamlined. He's already got me on some deadlines already. So you'll be getting that Ace Blade 10 script very soon, Brian. I'll just say that.
I've been yelling about it for a minute. So okay, cool. I was gonna press you during the interview. I'm glad you got in front of it, because
I'm
I was
already in
definitely
front
gonna
of
press
it.
you live, bro.
But brother, thank you for coming on the show. For anybody, I know anybody who watches our show knows who you are already, but for anybody who may catch it later, give us a little background on you. You know, how long have you been in comics, and you know what got you into comics in the first place?
Well, so I'm Brian J. Lambert, owner, operator, whatever, of Wingless Entertainment and Wingless Comics. I've been doing this. We've been Wingless Comics for about 4 years. We're coming up on our 5th-year anniversary this year in November. And I've been doing comics I've been into comics obviously my whole life, like a lot of us have. Some of us haven't, or whatever, cartoons, different things. But that Mutant Genesis, what we're seeing now in like X-Men 97 is what I grew up with, right? Like in the 92, and on and on and on. And that Jim Lee run, that first Jim Lee run of X-Men, it broke the bank. And it was just, again, I use that as a Bible, like a comic Bible. I have it next to me when I'm writing now, when I'm doing art, because you can still go back to that and see like the nuance and how it's done and just everything that I want to see in comics. Then there was Image, when Jim Lee and those guys, and Rob Liefeld and Eric Larson and Todd McFarlane, all those guys broke off from the big companies, and they formed Image, even though Image was subsidized by not Milestone, but Malibu Comics. And there were things like other business that we didn't know at the time. But like as a kid, if you guys were into comics, man, that was a big move, man. It was like, that was the moment for me. And I feel like in our generation where it was like, man, anybody can do comics. Oh, it's not like, because comics really felt corporate. It felt like you could only do it if you were DC, if you were Marvel. And you couldn't even make them, right? Like not even for fun. Like and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, even though it was huge, it was a completely different thing. It was alien. Indie comics weren't what they are right now. So Image was really big. I love those oversaturated palettes. I love some of the costumes. Don't get me wrong, some of the stories were lacking ultimately, right? But
they were fun.
Right, bro. I still have my Union comics, right? Don't make no sense, bro. The dude could fly. He got a staff and his energy, but his hair is gorgeous. His costume is dope. But don't make no sense. I don't understand it.
That storyline made no sense at all.
Right. But it's fun though. It was so dope. So I always wanted to do it. And again, before Facebook and social media really, really blew up, it was still really hard, man. Otherwise, you had to know, like, either you had to be an artist or you had to know an artist like up the block. And so with social media, it just kind of opened the door. And I wrote my first novel back in 2017, or I published my first novel back in 2017, called Ascension, the Crucian Saga, Book 1. And it was a fantasy thing. I've always wanted to be into like fantasy. I love Arthurian legend. And so it was like knights and lords and ladies and this whole deal. And I started getting into these communities on Facebook that were about fantasy and about comics and about all these other things. And honestly, man, one of the first people I met was a dude named Chris Williams. And we started talking ideas about his comic Prophet the Hitman. Years ago, we ran basically the whole story of the first like 2 books together. We were doing a bunch of stuff, and we were online. And I started talking mess with Lonzo of Concrete Comics. Like we were going back and forth, just cracking jokes at each other or whatever. And we kind of linked up and started talking about a few things. And like again, one thing led to another. Same way I kind of met you guys in terms of like social media. You see a post, some of your friends are on the post, you start talking ideas about the character or what's going on, and you meet all these other people and you start networking, through the social. And and then the tail goes, right? Like that's what it is. Like that's everything. And I was able to like fulfill a dream, obviously, after that, finding a great artist in Fabio Samal, finding an amazing colorist in Nestor Rajula, finding Malachi and Brett, and all the people that are now part of Wingless Comics, in each small piece, right? And putting the business together so that it's sustainable, so it's something that we can all do. And that's where we are 4 years later, right? Being able to continue to produce comics and do the things we love.
We had Malachi on the show recently, and he gave us kind of the origin story of him being a part of Wingless, and the origin of her and all that good stuff. But I wonder, like you just brought up like being online and things like that. Do you prefer to network online or in person, or is it just a matter of what's happening at the time?
I think it's a little mix of both. I think sometimes online is a little bit easier Only in that, who cares if somebody doesn't answer your message, right? But it's kind of heartbreaking if you're trying to talk to somebody and they kind of just shoo you away. There's also like the fandom of being in person, right? If you're at a con, again, if we're peers, that's different, right? And you're talking to a group of peers, but you're at these cons and some of these guys have been in the business 30, 40 years or whatever, or they think they're better, or you think you're better. You know what I mean? There's like a lot that kind of goes into it that you have to balance. And I've been fortunate with someone like Malachi, right? I don't necessarily consider that networking, even though it was, right? Again, we got on, it was X-Men posts. He said something and it was storm, storm, storm. And I was like, man, whatever. Like, right. And we're going back and forth and making
Wait,
jokes.
Malachi likes Storm?
What?
Right.
I didn't even know
Surprising
that.
to hear, right? Surprising. You would never think, you would never guess it. But yeah, it was easier to kind of, I will say, social media is easier to kind of get into the mind of a storyteller sometimes based on how people structure an argument, right? If we're talking about things and you structure an argument a certain way, I may be able to evaluate that. It's like, oh man, this guy's a good storyteller. But I remember the reason that Malachi and I, for me, that it worked is because he was so passionate about what he was talking about. And I'm big on support. Like I'm a super backer on Kickstarter because I support. Even if I can't read every book that I get, I want to support people if I have the opportunity because it means a lot. And Malachi was the same way. He wasn't on Kickstarter at the time, but he had his book, and I was like, "Oh, where is it? You know, oh, oh, $15, what, $20, whatever it was, right? Amazon. Okay, cool, I got it." And I started reading it, and he had a very poetic, a very flowy way of telling the stories that he wanted to tell. Also, he's an encyclopedia in terms of like X-Men book knowledge, like being able to go, "Oh, yeah, X-Men 302, they did," you know what I mean? And that's not my thing. So that led me to admire that about him, right? And to admire his ability to recall that stuff and to make it make sense in a current format. Whether or not I agree with him on every point, right? Like his ability to transfer that knowledge was amazing, and that was something that I knew Wingless Comics needed, right? And that's at the very beginning when Wingless Comics was just me, and Malachi was the first person I brought on board, and so those kinds of things I think are awesome, and I do prefer that over some of the networking in person because some of the networking in person is really just glad handling, excuse me, and I don't really have time for that, to be honest.
I understand
Okay,
that.
no
I
problem.
understand that. I think there's pros and cons to both. Of course, you might be dealing with a facade in person, but you might be dealing with a facade online too. You just never know until you. I think it's all about doing the work of maintaining communications and getting to know people. Because once you get past that, the mask that they have on, you can really know what kind of person you're working with, and you just got to be consistent to get there. So artists. Adding artists to the credits. I'm not going to tell people what you showed me in my inbox the other day, but
Wait,
I've been seeing
what?
that I've been
You
seeing that
can't
you've been
tease us
posting.
like that.
I've been seeing that you've been posting colors. You've been
Oh
posting more
man,
color work, and it's it's just great to see, man, and I love it
thank you,
for
thank you,
sure.
thank you, thank you, thank
So
you. Hey, I just sent something to our little chat. It's something I'm working on right now too. That's only like about a third finished, but I just sent that in there.
Can
Oh,
I
can
sent
I
man.
that
share
to
what you just sent or what?
yeah, I sent it to the editor in chief of Fourth Wall because I'd like a
Okay.
coloring gig. I've
Hey,
asked for one for a couple years now. And
we're gonna make it happen. We're gonna make it
somebody
happen.
here is a hater. He's
Looking at
this
this,
who's this a hater.
All right.
This one.
All right. Let's see what it
looking
is.
at
Let's see what it
this,
is. Look at
looking
that.
at this, we about to make it happen.
That's
Man,
Yeah.
that's
I actually
cold,
have a
man.
ton of weight. You know what? Hold on real quick, because wait a minute. I'm sorry. I have a better version, and so I'm gonna kick
That's
myself
cold
if I
right
don't
there,
send.
man. I like
Again,
that.
I'm still working on it. Um,
Said he had a better version. Let
I
me
got
take
some
that
more work
down
to
real
do.
quick.
Yeah,
That's
hold on.
cold, brother.
Hold on. I saw it. I got embarrassed. I was like, wait a minute. I can do
I'm like,
better
wait,
than
man, look
that.
at this.
Hold on. Give me 1 second
Okay.
here.
Man, it's beautiful work, man. Like I said, I've been seeing the progress, man, and just being a jack of all trades, man. Just writing, publishing, networking, putting together, groups and stuff like that, and now drawing and coloring and all kinds of stuff. And then you still find time to go to Disneyland. How? Where do
Oh
you get
man.
the time at?
Because he
I
lives right
don't know
next to
where the
it.
time comes from. 2 hours. Man, nah, man. I'm a good hour and a half. But now I'm
That's
far
an
closer
hour
than
and a
you
half
are.
of LA traffic.
LA
That's
traffic.
LA
You're
traffic.
fair. Yeah, you're right.
So that's
No, I
like
mean like
that's like
that hour and a
15
half is just
miles.
like
Like
2 miles in LA.
right. It's just right down the block. I should walk
that's
there. It's
terrible.
faster. Yeah.
That's great. That's actually really great stuff.
Man. Oh man,
Yeah.
the highlights. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So yeah, I got
Robert.
like a lot more work I got to do, but I'll finish it probably today. So I feel like the coloring stuff is that's something that I found that was fun. It's very soothing. I feel like coloring is very soothing. And I feel like it's easier to learn. Obviously, this is what programs do and computers, et cetera, et cetera. They kind of not speed up the process, right? But there's a larger margin of error. If I was doing that with Copic markers, there's no double tap, right, to go back. You have to, it takes like a long time. So I'm fortunate that we're in this era. I used to love to draw as a kid, and I got fairly good. And then I stopped for a bunch of years. A lot of us have had to do that, right? Because of life and career and whatever else.
Sure.
And it's not like an attainable dream sometimes. So I had to kind of back off in terms of that. So getting back to it is fun. Lettering is a matter of necessity, right? Like that extra, and people get chided for this sometimes, and they're like, hire an editor, hire a letterer, hire this. You should, 100%. I'm an editor, so I'm going to say hire an editor, right? And all these things are true, but sometimes you just don't have the funds. And sometimes people are like, well, then don't put it out if you don't have the funds. No, don't stop yourself, because then you're going to continue to stop yourself. But you can put out these things and do some of these things while quote unquote cutting corners, but knowing that the moment you get the ability to not cut corners, you're going to not cut corners, right? You put out that issue that has some editing problems, knowing that, okay, cool, this is to make money so that the next one I can actually get it edited, so I can actually, don't think of yourself so highly just because you publish. The publish thing is huge, but it's important to note all the things that you need to do. So that was what lettering was for me. Lettering was definitely a place where, man, I could have spent the money, but I was looking down, 20 plus pages, 30 pages of a book, $15 a page for lettering, which doesn't sound, $15 a page doesn't sound much, but when you're doing a 30-page shot, it's a lot. I wanted to learn, because I also like, Danny knows this, I like to edit all the way up to the last moment. Until you send it off to the printer, I'm editing all the way up to the last moment, whether it's my book or somebody else's that I'm assisting with or whatever. And so lettering helped me do that. It allowed me to do that. And a good friend, when I did Justice Zero, the first Justice comic, Greg Anderson, Elise, he was like, I don't like the letters. And I was like, wait, what? Like the positioning, the bubbles, the what? And he ended up not liking the font. But it was a really good tip, right? Because there are multiple fonts that are comic fonts that look okay, and then some look better than the others. And so he was really instrumental in that. Again, I've had a lot of help. While I can call myself like a self-made man, no self-made man is made completely alone, right? Like you're not made in a vacuum. And so people help you along the way, and people, again, man, Danny himself and Robert Jeffrey are two of the big reasons that Air Force Ones even came out, right? I had this idea and I thought it was cool. And some people didn't react the way I thought they would when the first two people I told, it was kind of, just nothing. And I was like, damn. And then I talked to Robert, and Robert was like, nah, man, this is fire. Like, keep this to yourself, do what you got to do. And about halfway through the thing, I was like, hey, Danny, I got this idea. I think it's dope, man, but I don't know. Like, let me show you some stuff. And he was really encouraging. So I say all that to say, like, we have to be these jacks of all trade, right? And we have to do these things and kind of push ourselves. But then at the same time, we have external factors that push us and make us want to learn and make us want to do more. I see Kyron, I see your art, right? And I want to draw. I see Mr. Fish's art and I want to draw. I see people's colors. I want to do colors. Like I see Danny, lettering, and I want to letter, so I feel like there's like an iron sharpens iron mentality to what I do. Some of it again is necessity, and some of it is just, I'm a megalomaniac. I want to know it all so that I understand it all, so that I can do it all better.
That's the word I was looking for. No,
there's nothing wrong with that though.
No, there's not. That's absolutely nothing. I'm the same way, man. I literally, if I could do every part of this process, Kyron always jokes on me. He's like, oh, eventually we're gonna get a Ace Blade comic completely done by Danny, and I'm like, it might not. It's probably not gonna happen, but hey. if I get these skills together. But at the same
I give
time,
myself
I think
5 years before I do it, bro. I'm not gonna
there
lie.
you
I'm trying to. I'm
there you
within
go.
5 years. Like 5 years from now, I want that first. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I want it.
Exactly. But I think there's also something to be said about being the type of person that somebody could say, like Greg Anderson can say, hey man, I don't like these letters, and then you figuring out what it is. Like, cause some people would just be like, man, F you, man. You don't know art. You don't know nothing. You know what I'm saying? And not take that into serious consideration. And it's great to be teachable and to be willing to get input from people, especially when it's people that are working, because people don't mind throwing a critique out and have never made a comic book before. But if Kyron says something to me about my art, I'm gonna listen to it. If you say something about that's why you're editing, that's why I asked you to edit Ace Blade, because you're honest and you have great feedback. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's something to that for sure.
Don't get it twisted. I'm really not teachable. He just loves that, man. Who gave him that? Who let him have that?
This is Michael Watson. This is Michael Watson's fault.
That's all Michael Watson.
So I mean, I'm not teachable at all, because if you think that in that conversation I didn't go back at Greg, like I ain't asked you if you like the letters or not, like then, like you don't know me, right? But
That's terrible.
what I am though, I do try to self-reflect, right? If you tell me stuff about stuff that I think is fire, I'm gonna be mad out the gate. Like I may not react, I'm gonna shut down because I need time to process and think, and you know what I mean, and go and just process it all, right? It's because there is pride to this, right? And so one thing that we have in this industry as well, especially in this indie part of it, is that there are not levels to indie, and there should be, right? A level,
what do we mean
an
by
F
levels,
level, like look, you got S tier down to F tier, right? There is no
There's
reason
a lot of F
tier.
tiers out there, is what you're trying to tell me.
There's no reason F tier publisher.
Give me an example. What's a F tier project that you've seen? Give me. I'm just.
Are you trying to say?
no.
I don't have. Look.
No, we're not going to put anybody F tier.
Okay, cool.
Let's just say what is an S tier project?
I think you have a couple S tier projects. I mean, if we're being serious, just off of aesthetics and just off of look, you got to give Giancarlo Bernal anything he kind of puts out, right? The Kisha Demon Eater stuff, the Crescent City Monsters, and I know those are both Newton Little Boy projects, but like
no, Ryan, we're not saying what an F tier is. We're not putting anybody on blast like that. We're talking about
y'all ain't no fun. Y'all ain't no fun. Okay, whatever. Look, okay, no, I got so an F tier. F tier is your quote unquote classic vigilante story where the person doesn't have a reason to be actually mad at anything. Nothing's going wrong in their life, but now they got to get back at everybody. And they're like a sociopath, right? Like they're like a vigilante that like steals from people in order to like help. They're like, I read a book one time and it drove me crazy. It's supposed to be the vigilante. He's supposed to be the good guy, and his friend is getting attacked. Okay, cool. So you want to go help your friend, but then he steals like a car from somebody to go help his friend, and then gets mad at the dude who just got his car stolen. Like, why are you mad at me for stealing your car? I'm going to save somebody. This person doesn't know that. They just know that their car got stolen. So of course they're mad. You get a lot of Deadpool with the rise of Deadpool and how Deadpool is portrayed now, right? Because I can go back to the original where he was fighting Cable and he was a merc, blah, 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 blah. And he was a definitely a bad guy. Sure. You get a lot of characters now that are
terrible.
Nice. Wow. They won't let you live, Danny. You get a lot of characters now.
He's not lying.
He's trying to ask a question. That's all.
Yeah, bro, he's an instigator. You get a lot of characters that are, well, people will say they're vigilantes, right? But that's just because they want to go out and show their character killing a bunch of people. But there is no like real rhyme or reason to it. Also, Deadpool is a bad guy. Like I get that in the comics and stuff, and I mean in the movies, he's like the protagonist. He's still a sociopath. He's still a killer. Like he's a serial killer, right? Like so.
But I mean, you could say the same thing for characters like Venom and even Magneto to a degree. They start off as these ultra bad guys, but because as a creation, we understood the reasoning behind their badism, I guess.
Yeah.
They became more endearing.
But I feel like Magneto and even Deadpool and Venom are different cases, right?
Sure.
Venom became a hero because he looked cool, because the character was cool. So they had to switch him up. Like I have the Venom, the first limited series they did with Venom. They switched him up because people liked the character so much, even though he was a killer. So they switched his characterization up. Magneto really hasn't changed. Our sensibilities have changed, right? Like we went from being like, oh, again, and we went from like the civil rights of like, hey, if we're respectable enough, they have no choice but to respect us. And life and the world has taught us that that ain't true, because they, you know what I mean? They got bit by dogs and had the fire hoses turned on them when they were in suits. But also it's our fault that we get treated the way we are because we sag. What? That don't make no sense, right? So our sensibilities have changed. So I think Magneto is a character whose sensibilities, since our sensibilities have changed, his overall message hasn't. Once he became more than your villain of the week, right? Once he had any character depth, that hasn't changed. Deadpool has changed, right? Because he was like a merc with a mouth. He was like Spider-Man, but a murderer. And he's changed to become this other thing because of other media. But he's still that killer. He's still that other piece is there. And again, when we're writing characters that are brand new, we're trying to, again, Frank Castle is not a heroic character. He became one over time because he's like other people's ethos, right? Other people want to get back at the entire world. He's the guy who can do it. So they live their lives through that fantasy. That's why he's a character that people look at or see or do or whatever. But he's not a heroic. There's nothing heroic about him. And people forget that part, right? So when you're writing new characters, they want to write this character again. Your character has, and this is okay. I'm talking about this as a person who has an overpowered character. My character is an angel. I can conceivably do whatever I want with him at any given time, right? But people will write these characters super speed, durability, strength. They write rogue, right? But they don't give her the power where if she touches anybody, she'll kill them. They just have this person that's super powerful and they can do whatever they want. And then they're like, you should like my character. Why? They've got no flaws. They can't be beaten. There's no emotional tether. There's none of those things. And
none of that.
And so, right. So when we're talking about people giving feedback, if I look at your character and your character is that, and you're telling me how to write something, I don't want to hear what you have to say. I might be cordial with you about whatever your critique is, but if you're coming from a place where you don't know any narrative depth or whatever, you don't know any character depth, why am I going to listen? But again, we're in a place where people think that, okay, hey man, I've been doing this for 10 years, but you've sucked for 10 years. And so you're going to tell Danny what to do or how to create Ace Blade? Like that doesn't make sense, right?
I've been doing it for 10 years, but I still got one script partially written.
Right. I've been in the game. Like, no, man, I just don't. It doesn't work for me, is what I should say. Personally, it does not work for me. And so I think that again, we're in a business where while we do have to have that duality, right? We do have to like listen and take some of these things into account, but we also have to take the source into account, right? There are a lot of people, again, in my first second year of doing comics that gave me advice. And I told them under no uncertain terms, like, I don't care what you say. Like, I'm not asking you for advice. I don't need it. Right. Because the advice that they're giving or the critique that they're giving is not apropos to the situation or to where I want to go. And while people get to say, well, I can have my opinion, you 100% can. Doesn't mean I have to listen to it or care. Right. And so if they're not willing to accept that boundary from you as well, then they have no place in what you're doing, because they're offering, right? And when you're offering a response, they don't want to hear your response. So then it was never about a conversation. It was never about any of that. You just wanted to say what you wanted to say about me, and I was supposed to sit here and take it because you're an authority. Nah, I don't care who it is. It better be Jim Lee. And even Jim Lee, he gets to say stuff about my art, but when we get to writing, I'm gonna be like,
Mr. Lee, respectfully.
Right.
So, all right. So there's something that we came here to talk about, and we could talk because
we could talk characters and all that.
We could talk all day. But Wingless Comics. All right. So we got Justice. We got her. We got Immortalis. There's y'all got what was it? The Saber Initiative. You got you got all kinds of titles, and then you said, "Hey, I want to bust the world over the head with Air Force Ones," right? And now I hear that there's a new project. There's something new on the horizon that you haven't shared with many people yet. You want to tell us about that?
We we have a couple new things that we're doing. So I thought that in terms of storytelling mechanics, I think that enabled in order to be able to tell some different types of stories,
Mhm.
I wanted to make a move into some manga and anime inspired material, right? What happens with comics, and I love comics, right? I'm doing superhero comics. Comics in America become superhero, and they get this box that they kind of get put in. Obviously, there are others. There are horror. There are all these other things. But when you just say comics to your general audience, people think superheroes.
Right.
And so sometimes narratively, you're kind of put in a box. And so I wanted to tell some different stories. Like with Air Force Ones, we, to my knowledge, haven't been able to see an urban Black cultural based mech anime, mech manga ever. I don't know of one. If there is one, somebody please put me on, because I think that's an amazing thing and something that we don't get to do often, obviously. And so I wanted to continue that. I wanted to tell some different stories. And so manga, when you say manga, it could be anything. It could be fantasy. It could be mechs. It could be isekai. It could be all these different things. All these different genres are kind of blanketed under their storytelling mechanic. And people are more apt to look at different types of stories within that mechanic. Like they look for the manga story that they like. Is it shojo? And then they go to all that stuff. Is it what type is it? What are they going to do? So I wanted to do that, right? I wanted to kind of branch out and be able to tell some other stories that are rattling around in my head. So currently one of the things we're doing as we work diligently, we're about 35 pages in on Air Force One. So that's about half of the novel. Half of the trade. We're halfway done, so we should give us another 2-3 months. We'll be done, and we can get that out to everybody. So while we're diligently working on that and the packaging and the toys and all of that stuff, we're expanding the One's universe. I'm expanding the One's universe. There's something I've always wanted to do, and I'm a big fan of what the Wachowskis did with the Speed Racer movie. I thought it was amazing. I had never seen racing like that, where they're going up and down the walls, and all these little things and spinning, and just the dynamics of how things kind of worked in that aesthetic. I was like, but what about Black people? And so spinning out of what I'm calling the One's universe.
He wakes up
we're
like that
going
too.
to launch.
What
What about Black people? Well, first, I have to say Grand Rising to myself. I
Yeah,
get up,
right.
Grand Rising, and then I'm like, what about Black people? Right? Like I look at my picture of Umar on the wall, Dr. Umar, and I'm like, Dr. Umar, what about Black people today? What can we? No.
Hilarious.
But so I thought about like that, right? Again, and these are genres that we're not necessarily like. Okay, if you look at NASCAR right now, if you look at IndyCar right now, you can count the number of Black drivers on your hand, for both. And it's not that we don't love racing and we don't love cars and we don't love all this stuff. So I was like, again, what would it be like if there was a driver or a circuit of racing in the One's universe? What would that look like? What kind of gladiatorial combat would that encompass, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and what would that feel like? Again, this is the premiere. This is even I don't even know if Malachi knows the whole thing about it. This is something that I've been keeping close to the vest just for myself, but we're going to be releasing in the near future something called Formula Ones. And like I said, it goes off of the One's universe.
I didn't put it together that it was in the One's universe until you just said that. So
yeah. So it's going to be a racing manga. Again, I love Initial D and some of these other ones, right, that have already done it. I'm not. I love Speed Racer, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like this is not. I'm not creating something new, right? I'm not creating the world. I am not. But I'm also not retreading. I think that it's important that when we talk about, again, woke, quote unquote, DEI, these are really hotly debated topics. And I think some of the things get lost in somebody will put something out and they're like, you gotta like it because it's Black. Well, don't get me wrong. Give me your money if that's the case. If you just like, oh man, I want to back Brian because he's black, go ahead and give me your money. Yes, I will take it 100%. But I also think that it's very important when we're talking about diversity and inclusion and we're doing these things that we are actually telling the stories from our perspective. A lot of people get mad at what they call like race swapping characters and on and on and on. I don't have a problem with it if that character is bringing a new perspective. Jon Stewart had a very different perspective of the world than Hal Jordan. That's super important. Just like Miles Morales had a different perspective than Peter Parker. Just like Virgil Hawkins had a different perspective than the Peter Parker at the time, right? Milestone and all those guys. Look, Icon is Superman. I don't care what nobody else says, right? Stop it. He comes from a planet, he comes down as the thing, he does stuff, whatever. Superman, right? So stop trying to make it like it's different. He's a Superman archetype, he comes down, it's the same thing. But their perspectives are different. And one thing that has always been a sticking point to me is anytime you put Superman in a historical context where the majority or Caucasian people, white people, whatever, are in a place where they're downtrodden or they're subservient, if Superman is in that context, he's able to free them. He's able to do something to change the tide. Icon was never given that, right? We were never given that part. Yes, there is some historical context to that, right? But then why put him there? If the historical context is black people could have a Superman, but that Superman can't save them for whatever stupid reason you make up, don't put that person in there.
Didn't he like basically just live his entire life in hiding of everything?
Yeah, there are two different. Like the older version is like, yeah, I was just a slave, and then I was like my slave's son, and then I was like my slave's son. Like it doesn't make any sense, right?
So you just stood there while watching everybody go through all that,
right. And then the newest incarnation is, they basically almost killed him, and then so he had to go in. There's always a MacGuffin. There's always a reason, right? Yeah. And again, there's historical context to it, but it doesn't help if you give us a Superman that's impotent, which is what he was. Oh yeah, he killed Jefferson Davis. But then they replaced him with a lookalike a day later. Well, then he didn't kill Jefferson Davis, did he? He didn't kill the revolution. He didn't kill the Confederacy. I say all that to say that it's important to not only have these characters, but have them be significant and have them be significant to the way that we see and have to move in the world. That's one of the things with Justice. Now, I realize that Justice can come off. Some people may see that because he's got wings and there's a cross on the cover. Well, one, that's angel iconography, right? So it's stupid if I don't use that. But Justice is not a religious story. It's not a story to convert people. This Justice is a story of a black man's struggle, right? And not understanding something, having to be on guard, a fish out of water, someone who's never been exposed to this, and you come down and just because you look a certain way, people treat you certain ways. Certain things happen because of who they think you are, him as a character, him understanding and moving through the world, in my opinion, as black men statistically have to do, right? Statistically, the three of us should not be here, right? 1/3, right? Whatever. Statistically, we should not be here, but we are. So statistically, Justice shouldn't be where he is, but he is, right? And so, like I said, I think it's very, very important to write these characters and see the world through these different perspectives, not just because they have black skin. There are different perspectives that go into it. And I think that is some of the failings of certain movies and certain media properties. It's not the characters themselves. It's because they don't write from that perspective. They write the same story that they would write for a dude, and it just has a female on there, right? And that doesn't make sense because then you're not grabbing the attention and the emotion. And when they do, they got to browbeat people to say, like She-Hulk, she had to browbeat people to say, like, I'm angry all the time. Like, I go through stuff all the time. And you got a bunch of people like, women don't go through stuff all the time. And then we have this stupid ass man versus the bear conversation. And you're like, wow, this is why women are scared of men. Exactly. They can't even choose a bear in a what if scenario without getting jumped on. Like, sorry, ladies, I get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Man, so what about before we get to quick takes, man? I didn't even realize it was 12:45 already. But you told me about something, and this is your fault for telling me stuff in private and then coming on the show. You told me something about another sports project that you were working on. Is that still in development, or
so as a matter of fact, my artistic hand, I started working on the cover for that, man. I started doing the sketches for the cover for that. I think that was going to be really fun, man. I really can't wait to drop that one. I think that That one will be like a phantom drop. I don't know how much lead up I'm gonna give to that one. So I'll say that Formula Ones, the plan for Formula Ones is I want to add some bonus content to Air Force Ones to the back of the book, like we do with Justice and Caliburn, right? I want to add a couple pages of Formula Ones to the back of the book just to show people and just to kind of get people engaged. I am working on a basketball manga as well called Who Got Next, and that won't debut till next year. Again, we're very, I don't know if it's crazy or ambitious or crazy ambitious, but again, I just think there are just so many stories that we could tell, right? And we get caught in these little bubbles and these little ropes, and we just got to break out of that, right? We use crowdfunding platforms, which are great, but we have historically used them in a way to like, okay, now I got the money, I did the thing, now you guys buy it, because we had to get some respect and we had to get that going. But we need to start using these as forward funding. We need to start using these as saying, hey, this is my dream, help me fund my dream, because that's what Kickstarter is supposed to be, and a lot of people use it that way, and we need to start utilizing it that way. That's the only way that we are going to really make a mark in the indie comics market, right? To really garner a market share. I think what FSK does in terms of having everybody on the Agents of Geekdom, right? So then FSK goes from having one show to 7 shows, and you go from having one show to having a network of 7 shows. I think that we have to start moving like that in every form. And that doesn't mean all of us are going to work together with all of us. That's not feasible. But I feel like there's a way to continue to tell stories and to continue to tell them at a high level and to continue to honor, generate income and do some great things. And sometimes don't get me wrong, looking down the barrel, I'm like 3 comics that I got to fund plus Justice that I got to fund. I mean, it's a lot of money, right? But we got to find a way. Like, I got to find a way, right? And if that means I have to do like Danny said, and I'm gonna have to write some and draw some and do some stuff, we got to find a way, because these stories definitely need to be told. And the further away from telling them we get, the further away from representing ourselves to the next generation we get. And I don't want that to happen.
I like it. I love it. My man Goofy on TikTok is excited about sports comics and manga, so he'll definitely be checking that out too.
Now, I want to know though, Brian, when is the Wingless Comics King Arthur and Knights of Justice coming out? That's why I want to know, because that was my shit back in the day too, dude. I'll be honest.
So the Last Magi is in the pre-production stages as we speak. So I actually, again, I am I hate y'all, man. I'm making spoil everything. So I've been so you guys know probably Demetrius Holt, who's a cosplayer. He did He Soul and a bunch of different things. I saw him and Sir Julius and one of his other friends, and they did the Sengoku Rangers, right? The Sengoku Power Rangers. And I hit him up. He's my boy. We actually met up last year and we talked frequently. I hit him up and I was like, hey,
he's up in Maryland.
Would you mind if I used you guys' images to create this thing? So we are, look, King Arthur is an isekai. It's Power Rangers, right? It's not Power Rangers, but it is Power Rangers when you just break everything down. So I am doing a mix of the two. I will be bringing a African-inspired Power Ranger-esque story very soon. We're working on the designs with Chris Williams. Again, I can give you guys a little bit of backstory real quick. I wanted to do something that was historically topical. So basically, it's kind of the invasion of Scipio Africanus, and him defeating Hannibal, and kind of the fallout of that. So you've got some Roman stuff in there. You've got African, like obviously pre-colonialization, Africa, and in a very Japanese aesthetic in terms of how Japan is represented in the Sengoku period, right? How beautifully and musically and it's depicted. I want to see Africa from my perspective, again, in that same light and in this storytelling mechanic. So 2025, man, it's looking to be a really packed year, man. A really packed year. But we're going for it.
I love it. All right, it's time. It's time for quick takes.
Okay.
Brian, man, I love you, bro, but quick takes is quick takes. So I had to dig into your deepest, darkest secrets. I had to pull out the big gun and we're gonna expose you right here on the Foretales podcast. So
scary, bro. Scary.
Here we go. Let's do it, Kylan. Quick takes. Let's go.
Quick takes. You know, when you say you're gonna expose him, is just scary, dude.
Right. Who signs up for this?
Right here on the show live. Quick takes, man. Okay. I've been digging into your past. I got the photos from the secret parties you went to. And
hey. I ain't gonna say
was he a Freaknik too?
Don't. Come on, man. Come on.
No. Quick takes is just a rapid fire Q&A session with our special guest to let people get to know them a little bit better. So we got 5 questions. You got 45 seconds each to answer them off the top of your head. And here we go. Brian, you and I both attended Full Sail University. You graduated. I did not, but I did learn a lot there. But we also talk a lot about the things that we learned and experiences that we have in real life. So I want to know, to you, what type of education is more important, a traditional education or real life experience?
I think they're both equally important. I think that traditional educational experience will help you if you're unfocused. If you are focused, it doesn't matter. You can do what you got to do. 80 G's later, my degree does not necessarily help me make 80 G's a year or upwards or whatever. I've done that through practical application. But I think that if I had not been in Roland Mann's comic creation class at Full Sail University, I'm not sure that I would actually be doing comics. That's when I figured out, man, I can do comics with the knowledge I have. Like, I know where things should be and how they should be written. So I think they're equally important. What's more important is where you are. Are you focused or unfocused?
I like it. I love it. That's a great answer. Okay, question number 2. Disneyland. What is it that is so good or special about Disney? I know we talk about it before. I'm gonna take my family every chance I get. It's just a wonderful experience. But to you, what is it that makes Disneyland so special?
Disneyland is amazing because the first time I had been there in X amount of years, that's when I came up with Formula Ones. I saw a jacket, I saw a thing, and it's so much creativity there, right? Like, you're gonna get the magic of being there, and you feel like you're in this world, especially with some of the new Star Wars stuff and the new lands. How they're done, they're very super immersive. Disney knows how to package their product, but also you got to remember, there are artists that are working at this day and night, and so you see the architecture, you see the artistry that they're doing, you see the costumes, you see all these things, and it just, to me, everything just starts to click, and it's inspiring. Disneyland is like going to a museum. I mean, it's more like a really expensive mall, but it's like a museum in terms of you looking at other art pieces and getting inspired yourself by that. And I love that part. Also, you can just be what you want to be at that point. You don't have to be hard for the world.
Yeah, I'm down with it. Karen, you ever been to Disneyland?
Pause, dude. Yeah, I've been to Disneyland.
I didn't even catch that one. Gosh. Danny started it, man. It's his fault. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been to Disneyland a couple years ago, actually.
Okay. All right. Question number 3.
For the world, dude. Just for the world.
Just for the world. Question number 3. And this is a question that I asked to a lot of creators come on here, but I want to know your perspective on it. So, in your opinion and in your experience, what are the best parts of creating and what are the worst parts of creating?
Ooh, creating. The best parts of creating are getting it out there, right? But the worst part of creating is getting it out there. Imposter syndrome is real. Fear of failure is real, like all these other things that you get going. And sometimes once you start creating, it's hard to stop creating, which means you lose focus on what you started. And that's difficult. How focused are you? I love creating many forms, many different things, but at the same time, that also burns you out sometimes. Sometimes you don't know why you're tired, but it's because you were up till 2 o'clock in the morning writing something, or it was just on your mind the entire day. So creating is amazing. Getting critiqued by F tier peers is sucks. I hate that about creating.
F tier peers. I love it. Okay, so you already answered this one a little bit in the last thing that we talked about with collaborations and things like that. But in 45 seconds, I want you to tell us, what do you think the indie space needs to do to level up indie creators?
Ignore the
The indie creators really need to hold indie creators accountable. And I mean, again, you can't really put people in that system, but there needs to be a system. Everybody's not valid. If I'm talking about astrophysics with an astrophysicist, my opinion don't matter. So there are certain people, again, if you're not a writer talking
Can you
to a
go
writer
tell that
about
to
what they
like
should
half
do,
the people on YouTube?
that's what I'm saying. Right. The earth is flat. No, it's not, bro. Like they told you. And so that's the thing, right? There should be a difference between indie and amateur, and we don't have that difference right now, right? And we should have that difference. There should be a difference between indie and amateur. If you're putting out a product that looks like all the majors, but it just doesn't have the money backing, then you're indie. If you're not doing that, you're amateur, and there needs to be a difference.
Indie and amateur. I love it. Okay, now this might be a little tough, but it might be easy. You might already have this list in your head, but you know, every time we do one of these quick takes, we end it with the top 5 list. And your top 5 list, sir, as a fan of Star Wars, I know you love Star Wars. I was thinking, should I do top 5 Jedi, top 5 Sith? But I just want to know your top 5 Force users. So this can be Jedi, Sith, or anybody. So top 5 Force users, 5 to, or you know, you can do it in any order you want.
Okay. Well, I gotta say Luke Skywalker, right off the rip. But I mean Luke Skywalker from the expanded universe. I don't necessarily like how they did him in the sequels, but when you see him on the Mandalorian, bro, and he does his thing in the Mandalorian, straight fire. Obi-Wan is also on the list. He was not always, but man, he's come up so much. Darth Vader, of course, amazing. Darth Revan, man, first one with a Mando helmet and 2 different lightsabers.
The purple.
And my boy from Force Unleashed, I forget his name.
From the games?
Yeah, from the game, right? He was so,
yeah.
because you got to be him. That was the first time you really got to unleash the Force. And so those are I love them, man.
I like that. I like that a lot, man. That's I'm a new Star Wars fan. You know, I love lightsabers and I love the lore and stuff like that, but I'm not as into the story as a lot of people. So but I love your passion for Star Wars and all things the Force, man. So solid list, man. Solid list.
I feel like there should be what about the black people in that list? I don't know why.
What you mean? You mean the black person? It's like 2 of them, bro. Adi Gallia and Mace Windu, bro.
Exactly, that's the point.
It's 2, like what? Like, come on now. Look, man, I've read the books. Mace Windu got a whole planet of Force using people, and they went back to shields and spears, fam. Don't get me started. Don't get me wrong. The book was dope.
Yeah,
the book is
like in the jungle
fire.
or something, right?
Yeah. The book is, like I said, it's basically the story of like the Heart of Darkness, right? So if you know the storyline of Heart of Darkness or whatever, you'll understand it. Apocalypse Now, that story element, it's written fire. The book is so fucking dope. But when I'm reading it and the person like, yeah, they wore, you know what I mean? Like they're in this island and it's the jungle and they had their teardrop shield from vibranium, you know, shit hold. I was like, man, even in the galaxy far away, we spear chuckers. Like, damn, can we not one time? But also, again, man, like Soundmax says, team spoiler alert with you guys, and I know you guys got to go, but there again, like I said, man, 2025 is going to be a banner year for Wingless Comics and Wingless Entertainment. And Danny, because you were talking about Star Wars, and Kyron, I've read your work. I'm gonna extend to you guys the first 2 invites of something I'm going to be doing. I love Star Wars. I love Star Wars in my core. Again,
I like so much that she's choking up on it.
Right. No, I really do, bro. I would not be where I am creatively without certain things, right? And Star Wars being one of them. And so I want to extend to you guys an invite. I'm going to be doing an anthology next year. It's going to be a semi-graphic anthology. It's not a graphic novel. It's going to be more prose than anything, but it is going to be our galaxy far away, a long time ago. So it's going to have, I guess, Star Wars-like elements in terms of fantasy and sci-fi and swords and chivalry and all of these things. I will be giving a larger plot synopsis and kind of a world lore to everyone in the next coming months, probably in the next 3 or 4 months. But again, I wanted to live extend to you guys the invitation. I would love if you guys would be able to write a piece on it. Again, we're going to take our time because I want it to be done right. I want it to be beautiful. I want it to be something that we end up doing like a leather bound hardcover. You know what I mean? Like I want it to be like a lore template for something that all of us can take pride in and take part of in the future, just even beyond this anthology I want to do. So start putting your heads together. If you ever had a Star Wars type story you wanted to tell, and all those kinds of things, put that in the back of your mind, because it's going to be coming. I'm gonna make it happen.
We got it.
Darth Vader is black. Yeah. Hey, baddest black man in the galaxy.
That's true. We got it, man. Yeah, I'm excited about all things Wingless Comics, man, and the Ones universe, man. I'm excited about it. I always love talking to you, brother. So I'm gonna be here to support. And anytime you need me to work on something, just make sure you give me some time in advance. My schedule is crazy.
Look,
but now that
you got one thing to work on, bro. You got Ace Blade to work on, and then we'll talk about everything else. Finish this. Right.
If it was just Ace Blade, I think he'd be okay. The problem is you know what? Never mind.
I was gonna say I don't know, Kyron. I'm not sure, because I've been trying to get just the synopsis and we talked through the synopsis. Like, I know what's going to happen. I know what's coming. He knows it's coming. It's just not. It's just not there.
We know what's supposed to happen. I just need to write it down. So
yeah,
that's how I go.
I'm very disappointed in the two of y'all, and none of y'all realized I changed my name to Kyron J.
I noticed it. I noticed it in the beginning. I didn't. I'll be honest with you. Kyron J. Silva. I like it.
Okay.
All right, Brian. We want to make sure all our audience follows you and keeps up with you. So where's the best place that people can check out your work online?
You can go to www.winglessentertainment.com. That's obviously our hub, and it has all of our social links there. We are Wingless Comics on Facebook, Wingless Comics on Instagram, Wingless Comics on TikTok, and Wingless Entertainment on Twitter whenever we're on there. So any Wingless Comics, the only Wingless Comics that you're going to find is us. So check us out across all socials. We're there. We're pretty active. So if you ask us a question, most of the time we respond within an hour or two, again, depending on work, depending on whatever else, but we're here. And we're always trying to stay engaged with our audience and with our supporters and with our peers.
Nice. Absolutely. Danny, where can people check you out?
If you want to find me, the best place to go is our website, fourthwallpros.com. Right now, with Bequest Studios, we got Elton on Kickstarter. We are at I think $1,300. We got 26 days left, so make sure you check that out. And if you want to find me on social media, it's at the Ace Blade on all social media platforms. We appreciate y'all. Kyron, where can people find you, sir?
You guys are actually at $1,361 exactly, with 27 days to go.
Congrats.
So go support Wally and his work, so Danny can stop complaining about it not being funded yet. But you can check me out at tauruscomics.com. I am also on all social medias at Taurus Comics. And this is the first time you've checked out our podcast, you can go to our website, fourtalespodcast.com. That's the number 4, TALES podcast. And you can listen to all our previous episodes, support us financially by buying some merchandise, things like that. We will not have an episode next week, though. I have family obligations, and Danny said he will never do a show unless I am here, so we will not be able to do a show.
2 weeks. Next 2 weeks.
13 days, because our next show will not be until Friday.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Because we have the man himself that we just talked about, Wally McNair, talking about his book, Elton. But it's going to be on Friday I had this up just now, and I took it out. Friday the 7th. At 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. So totally different day, totally different time. So I don't know, because we're not going to be on the Age of Geekdom network, because that's the time for 5-Star Fridays.
Oh, man, that's right.
Because they're going to 2 hours now.
Oh, yeah. We'll figure it out.
But you'll find us some way by searching Four Tales Podcast. But until next time, everybody, sayonara, goodbye, and please take care of yourselves.
I want to know what it is Quick is trying to say.